Russell Westbrook is the most polarizing superstar in the NBA today. His supporters love him for his awe-inspiring moments, the countless game winners, the tricky passes, the triple-doubles, the rim-rattling dunks, and of course, the relentless attitude. His critics rip him for turning the ball over and making poor decisions in key moments of big games. They say, well, actually, he ranks as one of the most inefficient scorers and shooters in league history. The disagreement led to nasty arguments online through his 11-year tenure with the Thunder, and it hasn't stopped in Houston. Russ's first season with the Rockets has had its ups and downs, especially in their second-round playoff series against the Lakers, in which he's fluctuated from good to bad to ugly. So what more can the Rockets do to maximize Westbrook? What can Westbrook himself do to further improve his game? And who's right? His supporters or his critics? Let's break down all things Russell Westbrook on this week's episode of The Restart. Hey you, I'm Kevin O'Connor and welcome to The Restart. We've seen highs and lows from Russell Westbrook throughout his playoff career, and that's been true in the semifinals for the Houston Rockets against the Los Angeles Lakers. He was awful in Game 2, but really good in Game 3. Let's get into Westbrook's offensive role with Houston. Westbrook offers plenty of good on offense. He's an energizer who brings a quick pace to Houston. He's scored or assisted an enormous 39% of Houston's transition baskets this season. By comparison, Luka had only 29% for the Mavs. And yes, Russ is fearless. He'll take and make big shots, and maybe most importantly, Russ gives Harden a break. During the regular season, Harden posted a massive usage percentage when he didn't share the court with Westbrook. With Russ on the court, it plummets. Similarly, Westbrook posts a high usage without Harden, but it drops with him. They run the show at historic rates when they're alone, but take turns when they're together. Head coach Mike D'Antoni has sets that get Harden and Westbrook involved, like this on-ball screen Harden sets that springs Russ to the rim. This is Westbrook at his best, driving downhill with shooters all over the floor and space to pick apart defenses with the pass. The Rockets will also have Russ screen for Harden. Here, the Mavs pressure Harden, which opens up a short roll pass to Westbrook to attack straight off the catch. Getting Russ going toward the rim is what Houston always tries to do, even when he's off ball. Defenses don't respect this shot as Danny Green doubles Harden here, but that's Russ's cue to slash. The more the Rockets can get Westbrook shots at the rim, the better. He's unreliable from the perimeter. I don't care if you love Westbrook so much you'd have his face tattooed somewhere on your body. He's not an ideal fit for James Harden. Westbrook has shot only 30.5% from three over his entire career. Defenses don't respect his shot. And for Harden, that means driving lanes are limited, and so are passing lanes to shooters because Westbrook is not a threat. Look at this play from Game 6 in the last round between Houston and Oklahoma City. Harden drives to the paint, but he's met by 4 defenders. One of the reasons why is because Westbrook has nobody defending him. OKC is essentially able to zone on the weak side of the floor. Chris Paul can drift and intercept Harden's pass because he doesn't need to worry about defending Westbrook. This is the challenge of pairing Russ with other stars. We saw it with KD, we saw it with Paul George, and we see it now with James Harden. You can't always get him involved in the action, which means off ball, he can be a liability. But even when you put the ball in his hands, he oftentimes takes these frustrating pull-up contested 2-pointers early in the clock. Of course, we saw the value of what Westbrook can bring as a shooter off the dribble in Game 3 against the Lakers. The Rockets needed a guy who could get buckets at the end of the clock, and Westbrook did that for them. But it did take him 24 shots to get to 30 points. It needed to take a lot of unwarranted deep twos early in the clock. You don't want to have that from him. So despite the highs, he still ranks as one of the league's most inefficient shooters in league history. Westbrook's greatest value is his passing, but that has taken a backseat for him with the Rockets. Westbrook was one of the NBA's best pick-and-roll playmakers with OKC. He threw some of the most accurate lobs in the league, finding Steven Adams right here for the dunk. He threw slick pocket passes too, and he can slingshot skip passes for corner threes. But we don't see much of this anymore in Houston. I can't help but wonder if Westbrook's passing feels worse with the Rockets because what he's best at, pick-and-roll playmaking, has been minimized in their offensive system. This season, 21% of his assists in the half court have come via the pick and roll. By comparison, last season that number was double, at 42%. After trading Clint Capella, the Rockets lost their traditional roll man. Now all defenses really do is switch screens, which puts Russ into less efficient isolations. He's playing with a space floor, but when defenders are sagging off of him, daring him to take jumpers, he too often obliges them with deep mid-range twos. Russ is simply no longer in a position to make the types of pick and roll passes he had mastered during his time in OKC, and it's been a struggle to adapt. Westbrook has become sloppier and more turnover prone. He posted the second worst assist to turnover ratio of his career during the regular season and his worst during the playoffs. It got so bad for Russ in Game 2 versus the Lakers. After the game, a media member asked Mike D'Antoni if he'd consider playing Westbrook for fewer minutes. Here's what D'Antoni had to say.
We're not going to win anything without Russ. Well, he's going to work through it. He's fine. He's more upset than anybody. So, hey, he's a great player, and he'll be fine. Not worried about him.
I get D'Antoni's point. Russ offers a lot. When he's on, he's on. And they do need a guy like that to complement James Harden. But I can't help but wonder if maybe the way to maximize him and Harden is to take from what worked in the past. Finding a big man who's cheaper than what Clint Capella was and have that player run more high pick and roll like Westbrook is accustomed to. And you can take some of what Harden did when he was in OKC way back when with Westbrook. And that means playing him more off the ball. When Harden gives up the ball right now, he tends to just stand near the logo at half court. Houston does this because it's essentially creating a 4-on-4 for everybody else on the team. But you'd think with Westbrook on your team, a passer like him, you would be able to have more easy shots created for Harden, but that just hasn't happened. Just to put things into perspective, LeBron assisted Anthony Davis 184 times this season. Lillard assisted McCollum 100 times. Harden assisted Westbrook 94 times, but Westbrook only assisted Harden 35 times. That is a reflection of how little Harden moves in Houston's offense. It's weird because Harden was once one of the league's most efficient scorers off screens, handoffs, and cuts back when he was with OKC, but that part of his game is gone. So what can the Rockets take from the past to maximize the present? Knowing what Harden has become, it's shocking to see the way he used to move off ball. Look at his sudden movements to get himself open right here for a three. The Thunder even had out-of-bounds plays that emphasized this ability. He inbounds to Russ here, then plays ring around the Rosie with the screen to get open for a three. Modern defenses won't always have the big man sag near the paint. They might just switch the screen, which can make it harder to get open for three. But playing Harden off-ball still opens chances for him to cut to the rim and finish Westbrook's passes. We haven't seen much of that in Houston, but the rare occasions have impressed with Harden getting easy open chances at the rim. The problem is D'Antoni doesn't want Harden moving off ball. In January, he told The Athletic, are you going to get into Russell's way? Russell's going to the hoop, so just stand there? If they come off, he's going to catch and shoot. But to move around and run around and get him tired for no reason, no. You can't make James more efficient, I don't think, than what he is. I think it just wear him down. It's a tough balance for D'Antoni considering the fact that Harden is posting all-time level scoring numbers with the system that they have. But with the way they've lost year after year, it does feel like something's missing that could give them a boost in the fourth quarter of big playoff games. Regardless of who the coach is and regardless of what the system looks like, the Harden-Westbrook pairing can't be perfect on offense because of some of Russ's flaws. That's why I wish Westbrook would take things into his own hands and make up for some of the losses on offense by playing consistent defense. Westbrook is a tricky defensive playmaker. Here, he angles his body toward Dwight Howard to fake like he's rolling on the rim, which baits Alex Caruso into making a bad pass that Russ intercepts for a transition chance that he should have finished that. He's a boomer bust defender who loves to sneak up from behind for steals and deflections. These instinctual skills often put him near the top of the NBA leaderboard in steals and deflections, as he has a great feel for timing his snake in the grass attacks on the ball. But with the good comes a lot of bad. He dozes off too frequently as he's slow to react to Markieff Morris's cut here, and he makes odd choices. Helping on a JaVale McGee post-up is completely unnecessary, and it leaves Danny Green wide open for a three. Or against OKC, he completely loses track of Danilo Gallinari, a 40+% three-point shooter. That just can't happen in the playoffs. What's so frustrating about Westbrook is the fact that he's shown flashes of being consistently incredible on defense before. When he entered the draft, Jonathan Gavoni wrote on draftexpress.com that Westbrook is nothing short of outstanding on defense. He threw heaps of praise at Westbrook for his on-ball and off-ball defense, and we've seen that here and there from him throughout his career in the NBA. But for the most part, we've seen him snoozing off ball, allowing backdoor cutters and open shooters. And that's what's so frustrating about watching him when you know what he's capable of. That's what separates Westbrook from a guy like Kawhi Leonard. We saw in Game 3 of the Nuggets-Clippers series, Kawhi couldn't buy a shot down the stretch of the game, but he made up for it with his defense. When's the last time we could have said that about Russell Westbrook? This is why I compare Westbrook to NFL Hall of Fame quarterback Brett Favre. They've both authored breathtaking moments throughout their career, but oftentimes it's weighed down by back-breaking mistakes at the end of pivotal games. Favre has had higher highs than Westbrook. He won a Super Bowl early in his career. Westbrook hasn't won an NBA Finals. And Favre has had lower lows. He's thrown 2 interceptions at the end of 2 separate NFC Championship games. Russ hasn't reached the pinnacle of the NBA yet and won a championship, but he can, especially with a guy like Harden by his side. It's a gamble, though. You're hoping that you get more good than you do bad from Westbrook in a big playoff series. That's what makes Russell Westbrook the NBA's gunslinger. Thank you so much for watching this week's episode of The Restart, and thank you to the crew for putting the video together. Please do me a favor and scroll down to the comment section and let me know what you want to hear from me about next week. And when you're there, please hit like, subscribe, and share the video with your friends who love the NBA. Thank you so much for watching. Peace out.